Well, hello there. Welcome to our live stream in July. And in this live stream, we'll be doing what we've been watching to start off with and then some other topics. So, what have you been watching so far, Luke?
What have I been watching this year? Oh, this month, sorry.
Yeah.
I've been watching a few things, just a couple of movies. I saw A Family Affair on Netflix, which is the movie with Zac Efron and Nicole Kidman. I saw Late Night with the Devil, which is a movie I've been wanting to see, and I must say it wasn't as good as I hoped. At the cinemas, I saw A Quiet Place Day One, which I really liked, and I haven't seen any of the Quiet Place movies, so now I'm excited about seeing that. And a couple of shows. What have you been watching?
I've been watching X-Men 97, one episode to go. Really love it. I think it, depending on how it finishes, it has the possibility of making my top 5 shows at the end of the year. And also been watching Presumed Innocence that did a review on, and also Dark Matter, and also watched Inside Out 2 and the Garfield movie.
Oh, yeah, I've seen those two as well. Is Dark Matter finished now?
It is, yes.
And you've seen the whole thing?
No, I'm up to episode 5.
Okay, and there's 8?
There's 9.
9, okay. You liking it still?
Yeah, it has a really interesting concept.
I do think I do want to watch it. I reckon it's a show I'm going to get into. I'll wait to see what you think. Once it's finished, you can give me an honest review of whether I should watch it or not. Presumed Innocent is great. Really liking it. Check out our mid-season review on that. It hasn't performed as well, which we talk about in the mid-season review. According to other people, we both like it. So I don't know if there's something we're missing there. But yeah, we've seen a few things. How many shows roughly are you up to now? You past 30?
It was 37 or around 37 to 38.
Okay, doing really well. I'm at 74 movies out of my 100 goal. I think I'll get there. At last check, there was at least 30 more movies coming out this year that I want to see. So that will get me over the line. Plus, there's others that are out that I haven't watched yet that, you know what, if I get to 100 by November, I'll just pump out a few extra movies just to see what I can do, like set a personal record, see if I get 110, 120 movies. But we talked about this last live stream. I don't think I'll do it again next year because I saw a lot of movies I didn't want to see, but I also saw a lot of movies that I wouldn't have given the chance and I liked, but I think I'm pretty open to movies. So I think I know if these movies are a waste of time, or, you know, I'll be more likely to quit on a movie after 20 minutes because I go, no, this isn't my cup of tea. So I'm looking forward to not being forced to watch movies for the sake of watching movies. So that's what we've been watching. We're going to move into doing a review of Inside Out.
Okay. So should we get up footage for it for the people?
Oh, yeah. We'll get up a little trailer as such if you haven't seen or don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Bear with me while I get the lives, get that up. Let's swap this over. Let's go Inside Out 2. Fishing. Let's chuck it up on the screen.
It's Joy coming to you live in Riley's mind. Make some noise! Yeah, this is in the house. It's Hanger.
Let me at him. We gotta get our mouth guard, people.
Fear. No, that's not Alice. Disgust. Glad to have her on our team. Our little girl's growing up so fast. Ow. Sorry.
It should be nothing but smooth sailing from...
Hello. I'm anxiety. Where can I put my stuff?
A new emotion.
Oh, I'm sorry. We wanted to make such a good first impression.
What do you mean we? I'm envy. Look at your hair. Oh yeah, not happening.
That's on we.
On what?
It's what you would call the...
Okay, instead of watching the whole trailer, that gives you a taste of it. So you can see in this movie that we've got Riley from the original film, and she has now reached puberty, And with that comes new emotions, which is very clever,
Mhm.
and which is what made Inside Out so good because it was clever. You only recently saw the first one too?
Yes.
Inside Out 1 was one of my favorite movies of all time, the animated movies of all time. I just thought it was very clever, and this movie followed on from that trend. So, as I said, Riley's going through puberty, new emotions, and then in her personal life, what's going on?
Basically, she has won the championship in her, I guess, area or division in America, and then she gets offered a camp for 3 days to join a university team. However, it works in America, and then
I think it's a
she,
high school girl.
yeah, high school. And then she goes with her two friends, and the chaos kind of joins from there. And then we get introduced to these new emotions. Envy, anxiety, and then embarrassment.
Yeah, and then ennui, just like the cool one, the French one. So what's cool about this movie is it kind of has two stories that coincide. There's what's happening in the real world, and then there's what's going on in her head, and they obviously they intertwine, but you kind of follow two sets of characters. And it's a very clever movie, a movie made for kids, but not really. Kids don't. It's not inappropriate for kids. Just kids won't get it. They just see the characters and go, "They're funny," but they don't have a clue what it means. It's very complex, so it's definitely for adults in that sense. Let's move into our scores for it. So, Jacob, what did you give the plot?
This gets an 8. I think it really tells a story to do with balancing, showing you what goes through the mind and the like what's happening, the two storylines really well, and especially the animation is really amazing as well. The reason why it doesn't get a 10 is, for me, I found it hard to go, well, there was roadblocks with them to get where they needed to go, but in a kids movie they always had reasons why they could go to the next destination. What, to me, I don't like it when writers do that, but I found the plot really good for kids and adults, so it maxes the two really well, and the run time was amazing with the plot. We're only going for 96 minutes. They did a fantastic job to get everything in what they needed to do with the plot, so that's why I get to 8.
I gave it an 8.5. I think Inside Out 1 and 2 are both very genius concepts. I like the way that they can make it relatable for kids. I can take my son, he can look at the characters and go, that's funny, yet I'll understand the adult jokes within it and the understanding of the clever language around parts of the brain and people's emotions. And I think it's a movie that needed to be made. I think after Inside Out 1, I thought, well, what could be next? But it's so obvious now, puberty. That's the next stage. Whether there'll be another one, don't know. I don't know if they need to. I'm sure they could think of a storyline. They could follow Riley's life, and it could be something interesting. But I think it was very, very cool. And I really liked the plot. I know it's a sequel, but it's unique in a way. And they found a way to make it unique again. They just didn't continue on with this idea of core memories. Now they've gone on, well, this is the person's sense of self. This is their being, and these strands make them who they are. And I think it's very, very clever. I think they spent a lot of time working with psychologists to try and find things that they can use to make the movie clever. What did you give the acting? Which is a funny one because it's voice acting. What's your score for that?
For me, it gets a 7. I think the voices did a fine job, but I don't think they'll win any awards for this movie. And yeah, it's hard to score this category for animation movie because for me, no one really did a particular good job, but they did a fine enough job for kids film. So yeah, a 7.
I gave it a 6 because, as Jacob said, no one stood out. There wasn't anyone big stars in it, and ultimately they had some good voice actors in the first movie, and they didn't renew their contracts, or they tried to underpay them. So for instance, Bill Hader wasn't in this one.
Yeah.
They replaced him. So I'm giving it a low score because it actually didn't manage to retain the talent it had in the first film. And then out of the new characters, I didn't recognize a single one of those voices. And I think sometimes what needs to happen with animated films, there needs to be some character where you hear the voice and go, oh, that's them. Like, oh, wow, like that's so cool. But on the reverse, I know this isn't a review of the Minions 4 or Despicable Me 4, but in that film, the villain is voiced by
Stephen Carell.
Oh, Stephen Carell's the main character, Gru, but the villain in this movie is voiced by Will Ferrell. And he puts on a French accent, and it's like, you couldn't even tell it was Will Ferrell. Like, they got a star just for the sake of having a star, instead of just getting someone that was French. And it's like, so you've got to be clever about who you pick and pick the right voice. I'm really surprised it didn't have Awkwafina in it. She seems to be the voice character for everything animated, but she
Kung Fu Panda.
Yeah, she didn't make it to this film. So I gave that a 6 for the acting / voice presentation. Voice acting. What do you give the presentation experience for being an animated film?
This gets a 9. The visuals were amazing. I had a really fun time. The reason why it doesn't get a tremendous 10 is I think I actually lost the boat with Inside Out 1, and I really enjoyed the second movie. Like, it's a very good coming of age story, but I think I find it hard to relate to Riley, the main character, because I didn't watch it back when it first came out. So now I'm coming up with watching it. It's like I really think it's a really awesome concept, but for me, I think I messed up the boat. But
I also gave the presentation a 9. The animation was tidy. I liked the way that they presented the inside of her head and her mind and how they do all that. I think it is very, very clever, and the presentation is right. The jokes hit at the right time. They pick clever representation for what's going on. So I think the experience was great. So I give that a 9 out of 10. What do you give the ending?
For me, this gets a 6. I think it's a very predictable ending with, it is a kids movie. So, kids are at that age when they want the happy ending, not the realistic ending. But the thing that I personally didn't like is that they didn't give you the answer. It was very, it's up to emotions. Well, to me, it could mean anything. So to me, it got higher than average because a 5 would be average. I think it's better because, she made up with her friends and everything, but it doesn't get over 6 because to me, it's very predictable ending. So yeah, 6.
I gave the ending an 8.5. I found it quite satisfying. I don't mind when things end on a cliffhanger or it's up to your own interpretation. I think that's quite clever. I get a bit annoyed when movies just give you what you want. So I thought it was nice they did it slightly different, but you do know there's no way she didn't not get in. She was smiling when she read it. I think the way they wrapped it up in her head and the fact that in the end she found a way to be a good friend, a good person, and still be good at hockey. So I think they found a nice way to tidy that up. So I thought it was a good ending and a happy ending for a kid's film. What about the originality?
For me, this gets a 9. I can't think of anything else that does this with emotions. And I actually think it's a really good idea for kids to watch it as well. And it's, instead of learning it at school, you have your anger, you have your sad. It's like you can watch Inside Out and learn it like that. But the only problem why it doesn't get a 10 is, for me, it kind of feels like a gimmick, or kind of, like I said, I messed the boat with watching it. Like it came out in 2015 and I'm kind of 9 years out of the boat. But originality, I really like unique concepts, and this definitely fills the boat with that.
So I gave the originality a 10. I think both 1 and 2, when 1 came out, it was like no other animated film. This again found a way to reinvent itself without repeating the same process. And I just think it is extremely original. The fact that it is relatable to kids and adults, but then also on an intellectual level. Like there's other cartoon or animated films that have that same effect. I think of things like Shrek. Shrek has, adult jokes, but yet kids can enjoy it. But Shrek isn't an intellectual movie. This kind of is it for everyone. Even if someone's like, oh, I don't like watching animated films, they're a bit dumb or they're for children. I think an intellectual person would watch this and take something out of it. It's just generally clever. It kind of ticks the boxes for most people. So I think it's extremely original and a concept not like anything else, and I don't think can be repeated. I think Elemental was kind of similar by like focusing on elements and how they interact, and it was in that same kind of vein, but that missed the mark. Where I think this one, it's a unique product. I don't think people can copy.
No.
What is its appeal? Like how appealing this would be to, let's say, Pixar fans or Disney fans or just animated fans in general?
This definitely gets an 8. I think watching different emotions and different characters, I think a lot of people would enjoy this movie because original, I think, would get a lot of people to watch this movie, but obviously not everyone would like, dealing with emotions, and, it's quite a sensitive topic. So it wouldn't be for everyone, but it would appeal to a lot of people because the animation and it has a good story as well. Yeah.
I gave the appeal a 7.5 because I think to the adults, it's easy to adult animated fans, they'll like it. But to kids, it's a bit of a hard sell. Like a lot will watch it for the sake of watching it, but I don't think it's going to be one that a kid's like, oh, put Inside Out 2 on again. I want to watch it again, because it's hard to explain. They're like, well, who's Riley and why are they inside? Like, are they, they just don't understand the concept. So it's a harder sell to kids, where like you put cars on and they're like, oh, Lightning McQueen goes around the track fast. Like, I can get that, where this requires a bit more thinking. So I don't think it has that same appeal to, I dare say their biggest audience is kids. So it's not as appealing to kids as it is to adults. So I think its appeal is a bit low because of that. What about its recommendability?
Same score at 8. I definitely think I could recommend this to quite a lot of people that like anime films, that enjoy a quite original story. I think this is the main sales pitch, or to people that want to see a different movie and are sick of watching. I know this has 2 movies, but sick of watching, the same, Bad Boys movie or Fast of the Furious. This has a really ingenious idea, and that's the main recommendability point. Of course, like Luke said, the kids, simplistic plots are probably better for kids, but of course some would enjoy this movie and some wouldn't.
I gave the recommendability 7.5, the same as appeal. Just because if someone's like, oh, will my kid like this? I'm like, oh, they might, but like, I can't really guarantee it. Where, a simple movie like, I think of Migration that I watched this year. It's not the best animated film, but I without a doubt will know kids will watch that and go, oh, ducks, that's cute. Like it's just it's simple sell. This not so much. And then those, if you're not already a fan of the franchise, you're not going to start at number 2. And then even if you are, you may have grown out of it. Like you may have liked it when it first came out, and now 10 plus years later, you go, I'm a bit over animated film. So I just don't think it's that easy to sell. So it's not super recommendable. What about rewatchability?
For me, I gave this 6. I think watching the emotions and things like that, I guess more of a character study and trying to explain it. Like as a teacher, I think it's very rewatchability. But for someone that would want to watch a movie, I probably wouldn't watch it again. I would probably watch other Pixar movie. So I think that's its main problem is, for example, Incredibles or Toy Story. Like there's a lot of other movies in the Pixar genre that I would prefer to watch instead of Inside Out.
I gave it a 8 for rewatchability because having seen Inside Out 1 several times, when you go back and watch it, there's little nuances and like Easter eggs you didn't notice the first time. So this one I think would have the same. So I want to watch it a second time to try and pick out those things you don't know, because there might just be like little clever things or signs or words or something inside Riley's head that's, you just didn't pick up the first time. You're like, oh, that's so clever. And I do think it has a lot of clever hidden parts to it. So, and watching with a different perspective, you might experience it a bit different because emotions are subjective. So I think it has rewatchability for an adult. For kids, no, I really don't. I don't think my son is going to rush to want to watch this a second time. Where Cars he does. I reckon his most watched movie is Lightyear, and Lightyear from an adult, that is like, I don't know how kids could like that movie. I just don't think it's good whatsoever, but he does. Where I see it as a letdown, so I go, oh, how good's Toy Story? And then now they make this like spin-off, this sucks. But as a kid, he's like, oh, it's Buzz Lightyear, how good's this? So it's like, this movie doesn't have that appeal. I don't think kids are going to rush to watch it several times. So that's our review. Let's talk about total scores. What was your total score, Jacob, right there?
Out of 100%, it gets a 76%. And I know it's made $1 billion at the box office. So you're probably thinking, oh, why doesn't it get in the 90s? And I think it scored pretty well. I just think compared to Luke watched it when it first came out. I'm someone that watched the first one. I really enjoyed the first one, but I was thinking, maybe if I watched it when it first came out, I'd be like, oh, Inside Out was amazing. But unfortunately, I do like Inside Out, but not as much as other people. But I highly recommend you see Inside Out 2 at the cinemas. It's definitely worth watching at the cinemas. And yeah, you have a fantastic time. It's a very worth watching at the cinemas.
Yeah, I don't think you needed to watch it when it first came out or you missed the boat. I think you enjoy it more as an adult. So I think if you saw it when it came out, you still would have been, an adult or like an older teenager. Like, I don't remember when the first one came out. Would have been 10 years ago?
2015.
2015. So,
9 years ago.
Yeah, so it's like you would have been in the sweet spot to kind of understand it. But yeah, I don't think you missed the boat. But I think it means more to different people. To me, I really find it appealing. I enjoy the aspects of understanding how the brain works, and obviously it relates to my field of interest and my study, my work. So I find it more interesting than others, so my total score, moving on from that, I gave it 81%, which I think is quite good for an animated film. Not the funniest animated film I've seen this year, but by far the cleverest. Did I like it more than the first film? Kind of, but I think the concept of it's more interesting, but the first film was groundbreaking, and this one wouldn't make sense without it. I know that's always the case with sequels, but I think that maybe this just seems more appealing because they've refined it. They've seen, they've gone, this worked, this didn't work, this is what people like. Let's do more of this and less of that. So it's, it got a chance to get refined. So it probably is a better film, but the first one will, you need one before you see two. So 81%, as Jacob said, first film of the year to hit $1 billion. Been pretty slow at the box office. Obviously, that comes down to the fact that it is an animated film for kids, and they timed it to come out during school holidays here in Australia and in America. So it's going to make a lot of money that way because parents are looking for things to do, and they ship their kids off to the cinemas. It's pretty easy. I think
wet weather helps.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot more of animated films being the ones that crack the $1 billion mark more, because parents want to ship their kids off to see it, or kids want to see it, where adults are like, well, it's expensive to go to the movies. I think I might just go see Deadpool this year. I won't bother about seeing Bad Boys. It's too expensive. So they pick one. Kids are like, nah, keep going. You see whatever. Also as well, having working in disabilities, I think here in Australia, the film industry is really pushed by the disability industry because it's something that you can go do. People with disabilities like going, seeing films, and films don't discriminate. If you're, you're in a wheelchair, you may not be able to do a lot of physical things, but you can watch a movie. Like anyone can watch a movie or listen to it if you are blind. So I do think that it makes a lot of money off that. And animated films, it's very easy for people to fixate to or want to go watch, opposed to, hey, let's go see this horror film. Like, it's a safe bet taking a group of people to see an animated film. You're not going to see anything scary or naughty. So it's so I think it gets pushed through that. So animated films always do well. So $1 billion made in 19 days makes it the fastest animated film to ever reach the $1 billion billion mark, which is very, very cool.
Mm.
So that's our review of Inside Out 2. Let's move on to a trailer reaction.
Okay.
So we had a look at different trailer reactions, and one popped up called Jackpot.
Yeah.
We saw it's on Amazon Prime, and
With
it's
John
got
Cena.
John
again.
Cena on it. So why not check it out? I haven't heard anything about this film, but I do like John Cena, and it has Aquafina in it, I think, which we mentioned just before. She's in everything. So let's get this going. Let's react to this trailer.
Congratulations, fans of trailers! You've taken the time out of your busy schedule of work.
Thank you, sir.
We're using the bathroom to watch the trailer for our new movie, Jackpot.
How
Stay
disgusting.
tuned after the trailer for a chance to win the official jackpot.
It's a sweepstakes. You're gonna love it.
Here it is
The trailer.
for Jackpot.
So why are you here? Are you here for like pleasure or pain or?
No, I'm an actress.
Oh, yes.
Great. They're rebooting Barbie. Hi, I'm Katie. Just got back into town and ready to act.
Did you prepare something?
I have something, yeah.
Katie Kim is our new jackpot winner. Happy hunting, LA.
I definitely didn't get the part, so there's no need for the death stare.
She's my jackpot.
What is happening?
Uber for Katie? Did that look as cool as it felt?
Oh my God. What is going on?
Katie, you won the lottery. And now anyone with a losing ticket that kills you before sundown gets her money. Legally.
Okay, that's murder.
Oh, not in California. It's just a chance at the big time.
Oh, hell no.
Oh, hell yeah.
Ooh, I felt that too.
I need you to put this on.
If you kill me, you get it all. So why the hell would I trust you?
You treat people like you want to be treated. Oh, you face me.
Oh.
Shit, my sneaker. Really hit the target there. How's it look? Good? I called in a favor.
We are the biggest lottery protection agency in the city.
I do trust you. I think it's because you look like a bulldog that like a witch cast a spell on and turn into a human. You ever get that?
Yes.
We're in trouble, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
Who wants some head?
Why are you winking at me like that? Man, you can just steal people's panic rooms, dude. What are you, Jodie Foster?
You know too much.
I really don't, though. Katie's the biggest jackpot of all time. Just find her.
Cowabunga. Journal power.
This is a prosthetics machine. If people can't recognize you, you're a lot safer.
Hey, girl. Hey. What? Too sexy?
Okay.
Oh, hey, you're still here.
Congratulations, you are officially invited to win the Jackpot. We're giving away a big old bar of gold and chicken wings from B-Dubs to last you a decade.
How does someone enter, John?
That's an
Oh, so what do you think?
It looks very funny, and I guess kind of you got to hold your disbelief because it's very, convenient that she won the jackpot, but if she didn't, the plot wouldn't have a story.
Well, ultimately, she didn't win it; someone else wins it, and then they have to. Then it's just about another person, so that's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, it looks funny. Like I think it's going to be totally stupid.
Yeah.
It reminds me of a movie I saw this year that I've got actually rated quite highly called. I wish I could remember. I've seen so many movies. Let's get this list up. Called. Where'd you go? Oh, it's on Amazon Prime. Oh, damn, I'm not finding this. Sorry about this. No, whatever. It was an Amazon Prime movie as well, and the idea was the guy he went on to this thing where he could win. He could win. He went onto like a game show that he didn't realize he was on, and like he had to survive. And if he survived, he got all this money. And it's very similar to this, where it's like people are trying to kill her to try and take her money. So I think he'll be all right. Like Aquafina is not my favorite actress, but I do like John Cena, so I'll 100% give it a watch. Very excited for when it comes out, but do I think it's going to be good? No, but that's okay. Some movies are just meant to be a cheap laugh.
What's your excitement level?
Maybe an 8.
Okay.
Just because I think it'll be an easy watch. It's on Prime, so I don't have to pay to go see it, and it's not too far away. So more of a convenience excitement.
Okay. I'm going to be more of a realist and give it a 5.
Oh, I think it's going to be a low quality movie, but the fact that it's easy to see it, I don't have to pay for it, any additional fees, I think that makes me excited. So that was cool. So didn't know that was coming out.
Worth reacting to.
Yeah, we can win a gold bullion too, apparently. So that's a trailer action. So let's move into some entertainment news. So Sam Neill, who famously from Jurassic Park, is apparently now in remission from his lymphatic lymphoma, which is kind of cool. So I didn't know he was unwell, but well done, Sam, for beating cancer, and wish you all the best.
Yeah, that must have been why he got casted in Slow Horses season 4.
Yeah, so it's kind of cool. So glad he's doing well. Interestingly, I saw that the Flash movie, which we both liked and other people seem to absolutely hate, is now making a resurgence on Netflix after doing horrible at the cinemas. It's now trending on Netflix, and people are starting to actually like the film, which kind of matches this trend of if people are only going to the movies to see 1 or 2 things a year. There's movies that they miss because they go, oh, I'm not paying big money. I'm not paying the money to see this. And then once it comes free, they're like, it was pretty good. I really think The Flash is a cool film. I don't know what there's a dislike about it. I think that first opening scene where the Flash saves the babies from falling from the hospital is like gripping. Like that is gnarly for a starting scene to a movie.
It's just how the babies look that wasn't good.
Yeah. People carry on about special effects, and it's like, it's okay. Like I would rather poor special effects if that meant that the film saved money on their budget and we saw more films come out. Like special effects, so be it. There's films that are 30 years old and their special effects are rubbish, but people don't complain about them. Like it doesn't matter. Everything will look bad eventually, so it doesn't matter if it looks bad to begin with. Big Daddy turns 25. I'm a residential Adam Sandler fan. Big Daddy is one of his best movies. It's one of these rare movies that is funny but actually means something. Like you think of movies like Uncut Gems and Hustle. They were not necessarily funny. There was Adam Sandler's attempt at being a bit more serious, and I liked them. But then he's got other movies like Jack and Jill and
terrible. Chuck.
Chuck, That's My Boy. Those movies are funny, but they're just like, they're dumb. This is one of the ones that's funny, but it's actually like serious in a way. Like it's not just this stupid slapstick comedy. It's, he's been entrusted to look after this child, and he, wants to keep him. Like I actually think it's a good movie. It's impactful and it's funny. So I think it's one of my favorite Adam Sandler films, where something like Happy Gilmore, which I really like, that's just like not realistic in terms of golf, but it's funny. But I wouldn't say you walk away with something from that. Where Big Daddy, you walk away with something and it's relatable. If anyone's ever had children, it's a relatable film. So 25 years.
Does it make you feel old?
Not really, because I remember watching it as a kid. So, I'd have been 6 when it came out. So I would have been younger than the kid that's in the movie, or maybe just around the same age. So, I didn't feel old. So I've watched that movie plenty of times in my lifetime. So that's 25. Other news, Wicked, the very, very successful Broadway musical and prequel to Wizard of Oz, is being pushed forward. So it was coming out in December, I believe, and it was going to fall on the same date as something else. And they moved it forward to November. So I think that's to avoid conflict. And I don't know, to avoid the same thing that happened with Barbie and Oppenheimer, but those movies fed off each other. So I don't know. So that's got been moved forward, which I'm excited to see it. I've never seen the musical, and I can't say I love The Wizard of Oz, but I do want to see this because apparently it's to do with them like being in university and learning to be witches. I'm like, how does that relate to The Wizard of Oz? Besides there being witches in The Wizard of Oz, I'm like, okay, that's a bit different than like munchkins and lollipop people and like flying monkeys. So I'm intrigued to see. But it's well loved. Like honestly, I think it's one of the top 5 most popular musicals of all time. So looking forward to that. And as you said, Inside Out has now reached the $1 billion mark. So what movies are coming out this month that you're excited about?
Oh, of course, Deadpool and Wolverine, seeing what happens with the TVA and seeing the multiverse.
So I've been talking about this. I think this movie will hit $1 billion
easily,
real fast. Like if Inside Out did it in 19 days, I reckon this is sub 10.
Yeah, all the Marvel fanboys and girls will be licking their lips with this movie.
And just to think, Marvel, is it the only Marvel movie coming out this year?
Yeah.
So look what happens when they start to quiet down their content. They build up hype and they get people to go see it. And I know Marvel might be thinking, well, if we make $100,000 on a movie and we bring out 10 movies a year, we'll make $1 billion. So they're like, it's still $1 billion, a million or whatever. Yeah, it's like, well, why don't they, 100 million. Whatever, but I think they're better off bringing out less content and making more money. I think that's a winning formula. People don't get sick of it. You don't have to be introduced to some super comic book hero that isn't mainstream and people don't really care about. So I'm glad that they've quieted down, and I think we're getting a chance to bring out a movie that we've been excited for. Honestly, I felt like the last few years it was like, oh, this comes out this month, and that one comes out in a month's time. We've been waiting for this movie for ages.
Yeah.
So,
did you hear that Moon Knight season 2 got renewed?
They decided to make a season 2 to Moon Knight.
Mm-hmm. Did you hear about that?
I did not hear about that. Oh, what are your thoughts on that?
My question is what is it going to be about? I have no idea. I guess the third personality.
I guess it's a chance to maybe explain what happens in that show and maybe make it better. That could be positive, but I was definitely not a fan of Moon Knight. I think the whole concept of Moon Knight sounded way cooler than what it really was.
Yeah, I think I liked it more than you did. It's the opposite. I liked Moon Knight more than you, and you liked She-Hulk more than me.
I like She-Hulk because I thought it didn't take itself serious, and I thought that was cool. It was nice to see something that wasn't too serious, where Moon Knight was super serious but really meant nothing. Well, I think Moon Knight's a weird character, if I'm going to be honest. I think it had a lot of potential, but that would be changing a lot of things. But if you read up the backstory of Moon Knight, it's way cooler than the backstory in the show. So if they followed the comics, I think Moon Knight could have been a fantastic show. So we'll see how it goes. Oscar Isaac obviously coming back to play Moon Knight.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll watch it, but we'll see where it goes. We said Deadpool's coming out, Fly Me to the Moon. So this is one of those Apple TV movies that are going to the cinemas prior to being released on Apple TV a few months later. What do you think about that tactic? Do you think people will go to the movies to see it, or they'll just wait for Apple TV?
I feel like actually more the people that don't have Apple will probably watch it, and the people that do have Apple will wait for it to come out on Apple. But for someone like us that enjoys going to the movies, so there will be free parties. So yeah,
I do. I love going to the movies. I don't care if it costs money. I enjoy the experience better than watching it at home. At home, yes, there's the art of being comfy and you can pause the movie, but there's something about being fully immersed in something and watching something how it was designed to be watched.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe it's a clever tactic by Apple. They put it out the movie, so then you get people like us that do have Apple, but will go see it anyway.
Yeah.
And then you might get those people that are like, well, I don't have Apple. I don't want to sign up to Apple.
Napoleon.
Yeah, so they're like, oh, well, I'm not going to go pay $10 a month for Apple TV. I'll just go pay $10 and go see it at the movies. Like maybe that seems like a better deal to them. Or you get people that go, I'm going to sign up to Apple TV just to watch this. They sign up to Apple TV and they go, oh, what's dark matter? And what's
Yeah.
this show, Presumed Innocent? And suddenly Apple's then locked you in. Like, do they create new fans that way, or they get people? Yeah, like people are like, I don't really care like that this is coming to Apple TV. I'm not going to sign up, but I will go see this movie because it's got Channing Tatum and Scarlett Johansson. So it might be a stroke of genius. It might at the movies make back its money spent on producing it, and then once it goes to Apple TV, it's enough to keep us continuing to subscribe because they bring out new content and then bring over new people. It honestly could be a stroke of genius.
Yeah,
because if it went straight to streaming, I think as well this idea of if something goes straight to streaming, you assume it's no good.
Yeah,
like I feel that way. I think if a movie goes straight to streaming, there's a reason it didn't go to the movies. So where this, even if I don't see it at the cinemas, the fact that it went to the cinemas, it makes you go, oh, must have been pretty good. I know Napoleon, that wasn't the case. People saying that was a poor movie. But at least I believed that it was going to be a good movie because it went to the cinemas first. So, yeah, very much looking forward to that. And we've got Twisters coming out.
Yeah, apparently a sequel to other movie that they hunted hurricanes.
Yeah, so Twister. So that movie came out, I think, late 90s, early 2000s. I don't remember it fully, but it has people talk about having a great soundtrack and being quite a popular movie, especially people in Texas, I think, really liked it. This is, I don't know if it's like a sequel as in it like follows on, or it's just a movie within the same universe, or I don't know if there's any reoccurring characters, but have you seen the trailer for it?
Yes, it has the actor that was in Top Gun Maverick.
And Glenn Powell.
Yeah,
so he's in it. The trailer I think it actually looks rubbish. Like I'll go see it, but the trailer makes it look less interesting than what I think it will be.
Yeah.
Which is odd when movies do that. Because often trailers make movies look good, and then when you go see them, you're like, this is crap. I think this trailer makes the movie look bad, but I'll go see it anyway.
Like the Rock trailer we just watched.
Oh yeah, do yourself a favor and go watch Red One, an action Christmas movie coming out with Chris Evans and Dwayne The Rock Johnson
and J.K. Simmons.
Yeah, it looks ridiculous, and but I'll go see it. Because I like a Christmas movie, but geez, it looks dumb. It could be the worst Christmas movie ever made. And there's some bad ones. Okay, so that's what's coming out next month. Going over what's in the news, entertainment, upcoming releases. Let's have a crack at doing a top 5.
For Pixar, yes.
Yeah, so we reviewed Inside Out. It's a hot topic. That's a Pixar movie. We thought, why don't we do our top 5 Pixar movies? Obviously, if you wanted to put Toy Story 1, 2, 3, and 4 in your list, you could. We didn't restrict it. It's just purely what our favorite ones are. I'll go first, so you can finish on you. So at number 5, I put The Incredibles, the original one. I've seen 1 and 2 several times with my son. I think 1's just a much better concept.
It is.
I like the idea of Syndrome, them going to the island. The second one, this whole we're trying to revamp superheroes. They're illegal, but it shouldn't be that way. I just don't find that as interesting of a concept. The Incredibles 1 was pretty iconic at the time. It made an absolute fortune at the box office. So I've got that at number 5. I think it's a fantastic film. What do you got at number 5?
My number 5 is Up, and I just recently watched this movie, and at the start, I was thinking, this is really sad. This has the potential to be in the top 3. I was like, the main character gets married, lives his full life with his loved one, and then she dies, and then he's really sentimental about the house, and then everything goes on with the house, and then somehow he gets all the balloons on the house, and then he goes to where where him and his wife wanted to go to because of their idol. And then once the kid got in the movie, that's when it went all downhill from there. Basically, it went from a very sad and sentimental movie from a movie with like talking dogs, from a movie that did not need a villain, from a movie that had a villain, and then from I understand they needed to give him purpose and stuff like that, but the movie completely changed. But the first part of the movie deserves to be on this list, but the second half of the movie made it that it has to be on the list, but it can only be number 5. But if the movie went through his journey and was just about him, it could be maybe even number 2, but unfortunately it's not because of talking dogs, and I have no idea how the dogs got there, but somehow they got there and did not die because the main character was an old man.
No, well, it's because the villain. So the villain was a gentleman that they looked up to who was an explorer, and he went to the Amazon
to look for a bird.
Trying to find this bird, and he had the dogs, and he taught the dog. He built the collar that made the dogs talk. And then obviously he then discovers that his hero is actually a villain.
Yeah.
And the bird really likes chocolate, and that was the secret to get the bird. But, yeah, I really like Up. No, I didn't put it on my list, so I didn't put it on there. But I think Jacob's spot on. I think the first half, of Up
is
for adults. That is definitely for adults, and the second half is to get kids interested.
Yeah.
I don't think kids understand how sad it is that these people. They grow up as little kids. They grow to love each other.
Yeah.
They can't have children. They both work at the zoo. He's getting kicked out of his home. He's like, screw it, I'm not going. And then decides that he wants to fulfill the life mission that they kept putting off of going to the Amazon forest. Like, that is for kids. For adults, kids won't get that. That is a really cool story. It's very touching.
Yes.
And then the second part is kids like, oh, talking dogs, chasing the birds. Like, so it's like, it's definitely has its 2 parts. So the first one is to get adults grouped. And yeah, extremely sad movie. But it's kind of clever. It's a clever way of trying to attract lots of people. So talked about how I said I didn't think Inside Out is a movie that kids would rewatch. I do think kids rewatch Up. My son has watched it plenty of times. And we can both watch together. But yeah, it's definitely sad, but 2 parts to it.
Yeah.
So at number 4, I have got.
You mean? Oh yeah, sorry.
I've got A Bug's Life. So A Bug's Life came out, I don't know, maybe like 92, 94, like when I was super little. I really liked it. I think it's a great story. I often sometimes get it mixed up with Ants, which is a similar animated film, but The Bug's Life is, pretty iconic. They've revamped the animation too, so you can rewatch it and it doesn't look too bad. It's a cool story. There's a lot to learn from it, and I thought I like films where, like animated films, where they find a way to, bring things to life that aren't really there. Like, for instance, Inside Out, we learn about the brain. Like, that's cool. Toy Story, toys come to life. This movie, we get to see bugs, and they find a way to make real life phenomenon like bugs migrating, having to get infiltrated by, the crickets, and like dealing with the rain and all that sort of stuff, and making it a story, something that's naturally occurring in nature, an epic story. And I really like it when they do that, and getting to see the the different insects interact. I think it's a cool story. Very, very clever. I think it's one of those ones that kids nowadays probably won't see. They'll probably miss out on it, which is sad, because I think it's great. Don't know if it warrants a sequel or where the sequel could go, but maybe some kind of cinematic re-release or something to remind kids that, this movie's out there and it's pretty damn good. So what do you got at number 4?
My number 4 is WALL-E, and WALL-E, I think, kind of has the opposite. It starts off for kids, and with WALL-E, the main character, kind of, looking after dirt supplies and kind of looking after what's going on in Earth. And then we get introduced to this AI bot, and then they go on a mystery, and then we learn like a pretty dark storyline, what happens with humans, and then we learn stuff. Luke hasn't seen it, so I won't spoil it for him.
Yeah, I've sadly never seen it.
Yeah, so it's kind of the opposite to Up, but why I prefer it more to Up is how I think Wally has an awesome concept, and it's sci-fi. What Up is like talking dogs and very different. So Wally is a very awesome Pixar movie that I think deserves to be any top 5 list, and I need to rewatch it at some point to get that nostalgia. And it's definitely Luke needs to watch it, and I definitely loved it when I first watched it as a kid.
Yeah, I've heard very mixed reviews from this. A lot of people think it's their favorite Pixar movie, and others reckon it's the worst Pixar movie. I've never really heard anyone kind of in between on Wall-E, so I would like to see it. I know it has lots of Easter eggs and references to some of the other Disney movie or Pixar movies in there, which is kind of cool. So I think I need to go see that. So that leads me to number 3, where I've gone with Inside Out 1. I juggled between whether I want Inside Out 1 or 2 in here. I talked earlier and said I think 2 might be a better film, but I think 1 is just more impactful to me. And if I had to delete 1 from existence, one between movie Inside Out 1 or Inside 2, I would delete Inside Out 2. So that means that I feel like Inside Out 1 needs to be there. So I've got that at 3. Talked enough about Inside Out already, so you know the gist. What do you got at number 3?
My number 3 is Finding Nemo, and this is such a lovely storytelling of a father trying to find his son. This would have to be one of, when I was a child, this is what I grew up with, Pixar, and it still remains in the top 3, and it is legendary. I've not seen Finding Dory, and I don't think I ever will because I don't think it's worth watching. But Finding Nemo is a classic finding mission sort of storyline, and it definitely has one of the best trying to find your son and father and son dynamic. And then, Dory just happens to be in the movie, and for whatever reason they made a sequel about her. So yeah,
I really like Finding Nemo. I think it's very clever. I think the whole underwater element is smart. Visually it looks so good, and again it's that idea of bringing something to life. Like, you can make animated films that are about people, but I like it when they make animated films about something else, and not like fictional made up things, but like animals. And I think that's really cool. So I think Finding Nemo is a great film. So that leads me to my number 2, and I've got Monsters University. So
over Monsters Inc.
Yeah, I think Monsters University is a way better movie than Monsters Inc.
Gotta watch it then.
I even think Monsters at Work, the animated show, is better than Monsters Inc. Okay. Not that Monsters Inc.'s not a bad movie. Monsters University is just so much funnier, clever. It's a prequel too, so you could watch it first. I don't know if it means the same if you haven't seen the original, but there's so many clever jokes in it. I think it's more of an adult thing, and the idea that they're at university and the way that they relate that to monsters. I think the Monsters University is really cool. So big fan of Monsters University. Very rewatchable. I've seen it lots of times. I think it's better than Monsters Inc. So Monsters University.
Big call. Definitely going to have to watch it. My number 2, and I grew up with this as much as Finding Nemo, but of course this is what Pixar is known for, and this is Toy Story 1. Woody, Buzz Lightyear, they're probably 2 of the most famous Pixar characters. The storyline, the animation probably doesn't hold up as much anymore, but I had to put Toy Story on this list. I've watched this so many times. I don't know if I'm happy that they're making Toy Story 5, because Toy Story 4 ended pretty good. I don't know what 5's going to be about, but I'll be watching it. I grew up with Toy Story. You Got a Friend in Need is such an iconic song, and I grew up with Toy Story, so it had to be on the list.
So that leaves me my number 1, and I've also got Toy Story. Right in a sweet spot. Toy Story came out when I was a kid. I actually think it came out the year I was born. So I think Toy Story is so clever. They built such a great universe. Like this idea that, your toys come to life when you're not looking at them. Isn't that what every kid thinks when they're playing with their toys? They think their toys are real. It's so genius. It sells itself. You make a show Finding Nemo, you've got to sell plush toys that look like this character. You watch Toy Story, you see a toy called Buzz Lightyear, so you go buy the toy called Buzz. Like, it's like you're not only just buying a character that looks like the character, you are literally buying the thing. So marketing is insane on Toy Story. I like all the spin-offs that come from it. There's heaps of these little short movies that are on Disney Plus. They're awesome. I actually like every single Toy Story movie. I'm excited for them to make more. The Lightyear movie, as much as I didn't think the movie was bad. I actually think it was like complex. Like, I don't know if kids got it. But the fact that they could now go, well, this is a show. Toy Story is about Andy's favorite toy. Well, this new toy he wants, Buzz. And this is the movie that Buzz is from. Like, that's kind of clever. So I just think that it's kind of infinite what they can do with Toy Story. Even if they removed Buzz and Woody, I think Toy Story could still work. They could make more Toy Stories about other toys. There's just so many clever jokes in there, you know, like Mr. Potato Head being able to take his body parts off and change it, you know, the fact that they can swap Buzz Lightyear from being English to the Spanish version. Like, there's just so many little like clever things about toys. I think it's a smart movie, and I hope they continue to make more Toy Story content. I really hope Disney's out there listening. If someone hasn't already done it, please make a show about Woody's Roundup crew. So in the second movie, Woody finds out that he's part of a show called the Woody's Roundup crew, and he's got Jesse, Bullseye, and the Prospector. You made a Lightyear movie. Please just make that a show. Put it on Disney Plus. Bring out 10 episodes of what happens in that show. Him and the Roundup crew. I think that would be so good, especially in the second movie where him and Jesse, they need to make this final jump out of the plane. And he goes, just remember, it's like the final episode of the Roundup. And she's like, but we don't know, because the show ends on a cliffhanger. Give us that. Make the show. Let us know what happens at the end of it. Like, we already know this show exists. It'd be just genius. So please make that. So what do you got at number one?
My number one, and it was Luke's number 5, is Incredibles. And if you are a channel member and know me and Luke quite well, I'm a huge superhero fan, so Incredibles had to go on the list. It's such a awesome movie that they chose to do for adding in Syndrome, that idolized the superhero, and then he became a villain from it. And it's just, for its time, I was geeking out for this movie, so it had to be at number 1. Unfortunately, the second one was okay, but I don't think they needed to make it. So unfortunately, the second one exists. Interesting enough, Incredibles 2 actually picks up from the moment when the first one finishes. So that's probably the only cool thing about it, is that basically if you decide to watch the first one and the second one, you basically watch from when the first one finishes.
Yeah, it's very cool. Would you like to see a third Incredibles?
Probably more a TV show, actually.
Yeah, I think one more content of theirs would be nice. I think the second one was a disappointment in my eyes, considering we waited so long for it. I think bringing out one more that's, you know, this time they're superheroes, free to do what they want. People trust them to save the day, and then they fight a good villain. Opposed to, you know, the second one, I just don't think had that quite to it. So I'd like to see them being here and maybe introducing some new heroes, maybe seeing Jack a bit older and Dash being a bit older. And I just think there's a lot of cool stuff there. So I would like to see one more Incredibles content, like them just aged a fraction.
Yeah, I don't even remember the villain from the second one. I do from the first one, Syndrome, but the second one.
Yeah, I honestly don't remember. I know I've watched the start of it that many times. I don't remember the whole thing, but it's the idea of heroes are now in hiding because, you know, they say that the collateral damage that comes from them saving people, we don't need heroes anymore. You know, that story's in lots of shows and movies. And then these guys are like, oh, well, we're going to bring them back and we're going to start filming it so people can see what you do and they'll idolize you. And like Elastigirl gets chosen to be the hero instead of it being,
I remember that.
Mr. Incredible. And I don't know what happens after that. I've honestly seen it up until that point 10 times this year, and I don't remember what happens next. So, where I really, really enjoyed the first one.
So, some lasting questions before we wrap up. What's some movies that you would like, instead of them making a third one, that you would like them to make like a TV show of? Like, for example, I've been asking this question to other people. Instead of making a fourth Quiet Place movie, would you prefer them to make a TV show or a movie? Do you think sometimes TV show would work because it's cheaper to make instead of making a movie?
I like the idea of TV shows, but I think it needs to be spin-offs. I don't think you can go like, this is the main character in movie 1 and movie 2, and then now we're going to make those same people in a show. I think that's like, feels like a downgrade to me. But I think spin-offs, for instance, The Last of Us isn't a good example because it was a game and then they kind of copied it word for word. But I think like spin-off shows would be better that fall within the same universe. So, like I'm not as big of a fan of Lord of the Rings as you are, and I know that the like Rings of Power or whatever is not like as well received as the movies. Yeah. But I think I like the idea of the shows opposed to movies because you can choose not to watch them. Where once the movie comes out, it's like, oh, now you've watched 1, you need to watch 2, and if you've seen 2, you got to see 3. Yeah. So I would rather see shows. Like I think spin-offs of Harry Potter in shows would have been cool. So yeah, I think the show idea is quite cool. I think the Star Wars universe is doing that. Whether they're doing it well is another thing, but they're attempting that. They're putting spin-off shows and movies. I really liked when Marvel had a crack at it. They've kind of quieted it down because it's a bit hit and miss. But I think there's a lot of potential with spin-off shows. So to answer your original question, I think that the shows, instead of keep pumping out movies, would be cool. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I would prefer shows. I think you have more time to develop the story and the character. I think it's better.
Yeah, well, interestingly, I'm glad they did this. So after getting 10 Fast and the Furious movies, 10 high quality movies, I must say, they did thankfully make a spin-off show to that animated show.
Yes, on Netflix.
Yeah, so like I'm glad they did that because they wasn't quite getting enough fix of my Fast and the Furious, so that needed an animated show. So
have you seen it?
No, never going to watch it.
Yeah, I've seen it.
What'd you think?
I stopped watching it. They made like 5 seasons of it.
Really, they're that far into it. So yeah, I think making spin-off shows is cool, but just don't overdo it. Maybe Star Wars is overdoing it.
Yeah.
But there's more potential there, and I think if you make a mistake, people move on from it with the show. Where movies, once one movie flops, it's hard to redeem yourself.
It is.
So that would be cool. I thought of something else I was going to say before. We're talking about some of the things that didn't make our list. Interestingly, neither of us put Cars on there.
Yeah, I don't know. I felt like Cars wasn't worth putting on the list.
I just think the concept of Cars is cool because that goes on to that idea how I said I like it when they bring something to life that isn't to life, or things that like we can't hear ants talk to each other. Ants are real, I know that. But Cars, the idea of cars coming to life. And like they live in their own universe and there's no humans, it's just cars. It's a bit strange. But yeah, Cars is like the premise is cooler than the actual story. Yeah. Like Lightning, the Mac falls asleep, he comes out the back of the truck, then he like he doesn't have headlights, so then he like starts crashing, he's getting chased by a cop and he thinks the cop is shooting at him, but it's actually his muffler backfiring. And destroys the town. He's not allowed to leave, and then he eventually makes the race and blah blah. Like that, I don't think that's as interesting as the concept of the cars being alive. And and then the second movie's like he's like a spy or something. Yeah. It's a bit stupid.
It gets really ridiculous.
The third one's not bad. I don't mind the third one. But yeah, the Cars is like, but it's a clever one because I reckon Cars would be one of their most profitable properties because kids love it, and it's like. Boys love cars. They love buying toy cars, and what's cooler than a car that talks and you can buy Like there's a lot of shows doing that now. You go onto like Netflix and look up kids shows. One, there's Batwheels. You ever seen Batwheels?
No.
It's like the show where the Batman and Robin and the Riddler and the Joker, all their cars talk.
Okay.
So it's like it's about the vehicles.
Okay.
And it's like that's just profiting off the fact that kids like Batman and they like cars. So let's make a show about the Batmobile.
Mm.
Yeah. So like, and there's like ones about monster trucks that talk, and yeah, it's like there's obviously money to be made in talking cars.
Mm.
So that's kind of like that must make so much money. Cars ongoing. We didn't put any of those kind of straight to streaming ones like Luca, or didn't put in so like Red, the one with the red cat. I don't know. I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it either.
And Soul. Have you seen Soul?
No.
I didn't mind Soul. Definitely not really a kid's movie, and it was a bit of a thinker. But yeah, it doesn't quite make the list. But that was all right. And Coco, I didn't think Coco was any good.
I haven't seen it.
You haven't seen it? Yeah. I know that it's needed to be made for the Hispanic community, and it probably made a lot of money because of that. But yeah, I don't think Coco was a good movie. So a couple of ones that didn't make the list that other people might make. So be interested to see if people want to comment below what they would put on their list. So more questions. What are you going to talk about?
I guess last question. Do you feel like, I know you haven't watched as many shows, but do you feel like quality for the shows and movies, what do you think you've actually enjoyed more? I know you've prioritized movies, but what you've actually seen, do you feel like movies have been better this year or shows?
I think the answer is almost in the question. I think because I've been so selective about shows, of course, the shows have been higher quality. Because if I'm only going to watch 2 shows this year, I'm not going to just watch anything. So the shows were better quality. Where I'm sure you've probably watched a few shows this year that probably weren't that good. I haven't watched any that I haven't loved because I've only selected the ones I wanted. So the shows have been higher quality. I've definitely discovered if I'm only going to watch a handful of shows, there's a very select genre that I will watch.
And what's that?
It seems like I gravitate towards let's say like murder mystery might be the easiest way to categorize it, or something like missing person or something like that. Like generally something in that crime element. Or shows that I'm heavily invested in. So like The Boys and The Bear. They're the 2 that I'm 100% going. Well, I've nearly watched all of The Boys that I'm going to watch. But in terms of new things, what I watched, Presumed Innocent, and maybe the next show I might watch is I think it might be called Under the Bridge on Disney Plus. It's about like a 15-year-old girl.
Oh yeah, I started that.
Yeah, so again, it seems to be my trend to go off these kind of murder mystery shows. I would like to watch Dark Matter, but again, I seem to be gravitating more towards murder mystery. But that is a mystery show.
It is.
Yeah. What about yourself? What do you think's been of a higher quality?
Probably shows.
Yeah. How many movies do you reckon you watched this year?
15 streaming, and at the movies, I don't know yet.
But you've been pretty selective in the film. You haven't just gone and seen ones for the sake of, or I've seen some movies just for the sake of it.
Well, the Garfield was because I was seeing it because of a friend, but it was okay, the Garfield movie.
Yeah, it's one of those animated films I think only kids are going to like, and doesn't have the star power to make.
You saw Civil War recently, didn't you?
I did see that,
and you agreed with what I thought about it.
So your review was along the lines of you saying it was misleading. The name could have been like, photographers at war. It really doesn't. The name doesn't get me. Like I don't mind if the name isn't what it's about. I didn't happen to see a trailer. I don't know if the trailer makes out that it's about the photographers or not.
I don't know.
Because if that's misleading, then that's another story. Because like if you went in there knowing that it's going to be about
compliance.
The interim president assures the uprising will be dealt with swiftly.
Let me know if you want to try anything on.
Are you guys aware there's like a pretty huge civil war going on all across America?
Just try to stay out. With what we see on the news, seems like it's for the best.
Citizens of America, the so-called Western forces of Texas and California have suffered a very great defeat at the hands of the United States military.
Mr. President, do you regret the use of airstrikes against American citizens? We're moving to D.C. today.
You need to go down there.
They shoot journalists on sight in the Capitol. Every instinct in me says this is death. Flooded.
Every time I survived the war zone, I thought I was sending a warning home. Don't do this. But here we are.
There's some kind of misunderstanding here. What? We're American, okay?
Yeah, I must say the trailer doesn't quite tell you exactly that it's about photographers. You see them with cameras, but you think it's more of a war movie. So it's a bit misleading in that sense. But I just think there's a lot of things that are unrealistic about it. I think maybe it's trying to tell you this is what life is like being a war photographer. And it is a job. People do that. But I'm watching it going, I do not believe these people wouldn't have been shot by now.
Yeah.
Like literally there's people fighting and they're in the middle of it with cameras. And just because they've got a helmet on and like a high-vis vest, people don't attack them. I don't buy that. Except for the one time one person at the start didn't have a helmet on and a high-vis vest. She got hit. It's like, oh, well, see, if you don't wear your high-vis vest, you're going to get attacked. Like, it's war. I don't think people care about that. So so I think it was an interesting movie. I would definitely not watch it again. I don't think I recommend it to anyone. I think if they redid that movie and it was maybe they used the camera crew as like the people you follow along the way a little bit, like just to give a reason, but then it's more about them. Well, you could even have used the fact that they were reporters, that they could have been explained what was going on. Like I want to know, how did this civil war break out? Like how bad is the country? Were other countries involved? Are they coming to the rescue?
Knows?
I think that was definitely a more interesting story than the story we got.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on it?
I did a review about it. I think it's very misleading. I would have preferred if we got two perspectives. I think would have been better. I think it would have been interesting. Maybe I know this, like showing one perspective of like showing how the war began, so following like a soldier's perspective of how the war started and then showing the reporters is confusing, but not the movie that I think we deserved.
Yeah, I think maybe a more interesting story could have been, we've got a group of people that the war's broken out and maybe they are photographers, but then they hear that something's going wrong in their hometown and they've lost communication with their family and they need to get back. So then the story follows them trying to get back to rescue or see their family because they can't speak to them because it's civil war, telephone towers are down, whatever, and watch that. And they could have been photographers. That could have been fine. That could have been a reason. Maybe they went to Washington, D.C. to interview the president and then now they've got to get back to Manhattan or something. And then we follow the journey of them going through the war zone and seeing the dirty side of war. And, they could still do the photography stuff because there's a reason for that. They want to show off these images, but that could just be a side part of it, that they're taking photos of the gruesome things they see along the way, but them fighting to try and get home. Like, I think I would have liked that more. And even if they didn't kill the president or the Civil War ended, it's more interesting to see the tale of this is what would happen if a civil war broke down. It's kind of like apocalypse movie, but in this time it's a civil war that caused the apocalypse opposed to, like a zombie outbreak. So I think that could have been a cooler story. And they still could have done all the same things, but at least there would have been a reason for like, oh, we've got to get back. I need to like see my family. But no. And maybe along the way they discover a bit about the Civil War, or
Unfortunately, they didn't do that.
No, so it was a bit of a disappointing movie that I would not recommend to people. I don't even think it visually was good. I think the whole like Kirsten Dunst's character getting shot was the most ridiculous thing ever. She's like, they literally talk about it earlier in the film, like, if I got shot, would you take a photo of me? Because as war photographers, you don't get involved. If someone's burning a light in front of you and you've got the means to put the fire out, you take the photo. Like, the photo's like the most important part. So, and then coincidentally, as she's getting shot, she's just like, I'll just keep taking photos of you as you're dying in front of me. Like, come on, that's so stupid.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a bad movie. Bad movie.
Well, I hope you enjoyed the live stream. As always, you're awesome and keep being awesome, and see you in the next video and live stream that we do. Bye-bye.